might be a proper prediction of the result or the how this certain case might go on, relying on past court precedents and past judgments. So part of that will be the system is being fed a lot of the court precedents and court judgments, and comparing it with the case in hand, you'll be able to, at least in a way, be able to get what we call a very close result. AI is also helping us in taking some legal decisions on the strategy, which will be removing the humane factor, which sometimes it can be affecting your decision, feelings involved, thoughts involved. So the AI is helping us on, if you want, managing our path in a certain, or strategy in a certain case. We have seen AI being able to analyze, as I mentioned, thousands of documents rather than doing it manually or relying on your team. That also helped in reducing cost in many cases where sometimes you need to retain other offices or other people to be working on those files. So for me, 4 or 5 major points on how to use AI is something very important. Now with that, of course, there's a lot of legal questions that come into mind. What will happen if AI gave you a bad document? And I will leave that, of course, for my colleagues to be commenting on. But for me, this is the experience I had, and I can say I'm extremely happy with it. And at the same time, I'm just wondering what's going to happen within the next months or years, where we're going to be. Thank you.
One follow-up question. When you mentioned about the hundreds and thousands of documents that AI was able to review as opposed to it going through manual review, was this in context with the electronic discovery project?
Definitely.
Global litigation? Okay.
Yes, I was working on a cross-border case that involved, I would say, 5 countries in it. So over $2 billion in value of the case, 2.2 actually. It involved a government, different individuals, and different entities. So there were literally 10 million documents. So 10 million documents that would take you years to be able to analyze. So 10 million documents took us a few months, I would say, to be able to analyze it using AI. So this is it.
No, and I think I can completely relate to this experience because I work on I work on providing litigation management services, especially on electronic discovery projects to our global clients, but mostly clients based in US and UK. So I remember, I've been doing this work for the last 16 years, and I remember that way back in 2007, 2008, between 2007 and 2010, when we used to work on any project, when we used to work on any litigation matter, at any given point in time, millions and millions of documents had to be manually reviewed. And we have now come at a stage where if I have to quantify, at least 60% of the manual review work that was getting done by lawyers in my team is now taken care of by AI, is now taken care of by the machine. Of course, as we delve deeper into the other related topics, we will discuss on how do you ensure the accuracy and reliability of the data, what kind of oversight is involved as you use AI on any litigation matter, but could completely relate to your experience. The thought of sharing.
Just a small comment, I don't want to be taking more time. The same case with the same amount of documents, when the case started, one of the parties to the case, it took him 2 years to be able to review that. He constantly kept requesting from the court delays after delays because he was telling the judge, I have 2 million documents. 10 million documents. It literally took them 2 years. So the case went on hold for 2 years. So thank you.
Yes. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Let us make comment for that one. Yeah, I think that is why AI, why engineering, artificial intelligence, innovate AI, and also what is the legal definition of AI? Because if we wanted to use in in litigation or arbitration. Yeah, some authors say that the legal definition of AI says that it's a set of technologies enable machine or computer to simulate human intelligence. That is why now here what is doing by humanity in litigation or arbitration process. This can be done by machine or by computer. This is what now we are doing, and us it not replace human being or not replace judge or arbitrator or other thing or employees. Don't worry about that. But it just is looking for saving time, reducing cost. This is AI mainly using in the process. It's not for thinking. AI is not introduce new ideas to make some decision, something like that, or to change some issue. But it did not make new ideas for a specific something. It's programmed by people. Here, AI, what is benefit? What can be used in litigations? Yes, as my colleague says, that is for document submissions, for automated document submission. Also, here in litigation, used for hearing to witness. This is very important thing. That is AI help for that the country. Now, here, many countries now, or advancing countries now using AI for hearings, for witnessing. That's why many people, many parties can manage their case from different locations, remote, different places, and now they will have courtroom, virtual courtroom. That way, can listen to witness from anywhere, and that witness can say that is everything that they want to do. But the thing that here is the court, like sometimes even the part, if cannot present themselves to the court, also it happen. They call remoting, judicial remoting. That is now it's happened. That's is exactly in UAE and or in Saudi Arabia, and also in some Gulf countries. It's necessary, and now they working with remoting judiciary. That is why now AI, that's helping or assisting the court for process. And as my colleague saying that is analyze documents. Why analyze documents? That is because that they analyze documents, sorting documents, analyze data, and then they can predict, they can suggest what is saying in the documents, and also can make legal research. This is what important things. They can order to make legal research for past cases and for institutes or laws what are relevant to the case that is seen before the court. That is why now AI is very important, but we're looking for what happened in the future. It's not, I think, for my opinion, lawyers should not be worried about AI, because AI is not going to be replaced. Any lawyer, judge, arbitrator, any people, any employee working in legal field. This is going to help, it's going to assist, it's going to enhance what is the litigation and saving time or reducing cost. That is why just a further introduction for the time. Thank you.
Sure.
Just to add on to what Sir just said, that we should not definitely be insecure about the fact that one day AI will replace lawyers. To add on to that, we all know, how do I put it? Like, we all know that planes fly through machines, but yet we need a captain. So, for as compared to AI, that even if we use AI in our litigation practice to draft documents, to analyze contracts, and to analyze 10 million documents, we would still need a human mind, a legal human mind, to actually go through it, recheck it, and represent their clients. With respect to my experience with AI, I have been using AI for my litigation practice from the basics, from drafting of list of dates to drafting of some paragraphs in a petition. But what I don't use AI for is for my research skills as on today. I only use it as a language model and nothing more. And I also don't give it prompts to just draft me the whole petition or a legal notice or like a full contract. I give it specific clauses for me to draft, and it has given me immense results with respect to contract drafting.
I think on the topic that Sir and Abhishek touched upon with regards to AI being able to replace humans or AI being able to replace lawyers in the legal work that we do, I have a somewhat controversial view on this topic, and the view that I have is that, as he was mentioning, there were 10 million documents that had to be reviewed, and as I was mentioning that probably 10 years ago, each one of these 10 million documents were getting reviewed by humans at my end. So in that sense, now technology has taken over 50 to 60% of that work. So it is true that technology has taken over some bit of the legal work that my team was able to do. So I wouldn't say that technology has replaced humans, but I would say technology has replaced humans, but mediocre professionals who have not been ahead of the curve in staying on top of their game when it comes to all things relating to technology. As he rightly said, a plane will have everything else, but it will always need a captain. It will always need someone to guide it. Similarly, AI will always need an expert who's driving AI to get the best result that the person or the captain is looking out for. So in that sense, AI will replace the more mediocre or will get away with a lot of things that can be avoided, but the best will always remain. That will be a combination of AI and human expertise that goes into it.
I would like to add to this as well. There's a very interesting quote that I read where it said that AI will actually be making lawyers more human. And I think this is very interesting because when you give tasks like information retrieval to the AI, which is something the AI can easily do, you know. For example, you can easily search on Google, I want a vegan meal in my favorite Thai restaurant, and you get this. So why don't we have the same thing when it comes to like document review, or for example, if you're researching for a specific issue or a case. So if you do give this grunt work sort of to the AI, I think lawyers can focus on things that are way more important. For example, like strategy, the soft skills that they need, actually working with the clients. So for sure, I agree with you. I think that AI will definitely be making sort of like the best skills more relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, I mean, I was a day prior listening to an audio from the CEO of Case Text, which is one of the apps that deal with legal research, e-discovery, etc., and predictive analysis, which I also will talk about. But he goes on to himself say that over-reliance on any app or any AI platform would eventually lead to negative effects in the matter, considering there are some inherent biases even by the humans who in fact put the algorithm in place for these apps. And those can never be negated till there is improper regulation for that, which of course is an advancement that none of us have reached till date. So in fact, in my presentation, I will be going through that as well. So yeah. Okay, so I've been over enthusiastic than my other co-panelists, and I've gone ahead and made a short PPT, which I will just go through. So, yes, so I wanted to analyze the use case of artificial intelligence in litigation from a point of view of firstly understanding what kind of analysis are there when it comes to AI and litigation. So there could be a couple. One would be descriptive analysis, diagnostic, predictive, prescriptive, and cognitive. Cognitive would essentially run across the other four. But the other four essentially run across the entire timeline of a case. Now you could see here that descriptive analysis as well as diagnostic analysis will be the first part or the first use case of any matter, which would essentially mean understanding the past and also analyzing the past. Now what does that mean? That would mean as to understand to what happened and why it happened. that would require us to use also e-discovery tools to understand the previous case laws or the judgments or even the volumes of briefs and case that we have received from the client. So that would essentially mean that we'll have to analyze all the past cases, the judicial outcomes, as well as the data that we have received from the client. Diagnostic would then mean to digest that matter. So once, as Abhishek said, that he uses AI in making list of dates. So that would just mean a descriptive analysis, just describing what the facts are as it is. But the diagnosis is when you digest it in the context of what I want to really digest it as. That's where your diagnostic analysis comes. Generally, you'll see CaseText, LexisNexis, and several other apps doing that for you, and analyzing from one point of view and the use case that you describe the requirement as. The third stage would be your predictive analysis, where we again use AI. Now, we have AI apps like Predictice, LexPredict, what they do is, when you give them, when you set a context and you set the algorithm, they will predict the outcomes basis the judge, basis the lawyers involved, and basis the clients involved. This would also mean not only in civil litigation, but also relevant in criminal litigation, where there would be repeated offenders involved, so they could predict the outcomes. They could also predict the outcome basis, which is the judge that you're possibly getting your matter heard before, and other predictions to be made. And there are advanced AI tools like Blue Jay Legal, which have also gone ahead to even suggest or prescript outcomes or offenses for which, or actually judgments for offenders, or in civil cases, damages or liability, as a prescription, of course, to lawyers to suggest to the courts or to the judges. So these tools are essentially not only for lawyers to use for prescription or for description, but also for other stakeholders, which is where it brings me to my next slide, which is now analyzing the use case of AI from the point of view of stakeholders. So while we've understood the types of analytics, what we do need to now understand is who are the stakeholders really involved. And somewhere we sort of do sideline the use case of AI from the point of view of judges, from the point of view of attorneys or law firms like us, where AI is not only used for us to digest the matter, but also could be used by courts to understand what has happened in similar fact scenarios and how other judges of other jurisdictions have used such facts and decided a matter. Now, what this would do is get uniformity when it comes to several fields which in fact do not have uniformity. For instance, I do practice bilateral investment treaties as one of my major fields, and that you would see there's a variance in the judgments that are in fact provided by judges of different jurisdiction. And there is a variance when it comes to a judge coming from a third world as opposed to one coming from a first world country. What court analytics does is, this would in fact provide data on how the analytics have gone to show different types of judgments basis fact scenarios, and also claims against countries. Similarly, for criminal law, this will apply as well. So the repeated offenders in one jurisdiction could be tried in a different fashion as opposed to offenders of jurisdiction of other jurisdiction. And that's where again your court analytics comes. Now, judicial analytics would essentially require you to analyze the history of the judge and how the judge generally holds and decides, or the general judicial behavior. Now, why is this important? This could be important in, say, a bilateral investment treaty arbitration, or even otherwise, where you're probably not already aware of the judicial behavior. Now, this also plays a larger role in defining strategy. It is not really uncommon in India to determine the kind of senior advocate that you would rather take or appoint basis where the matter will in fact be listed. And I think this is what judicial analytics really does play a big role in. So that was essentially the analysis of AI from the axis of stakeholders. Now quickly, I'll just map AI through the civil law. While I've already sort of discussed what it does, AI would be really helpful when it comes to not only just service providers like lawyers, but also policymakers to analyze what the law is doing, what are the loopholes of the law, where is the avoidance of the law taking place, and then of course reform the law as it goes, and of course also helping in legal aid. And so not all of us have that kind of money to engage lawyers at the very outset of a matter, and you would probably want to reserve all your resources till the end for the oral arguments, and that is where I feel AI could really play a large role in helping a lot of clients cut down on the cost of lawyers, make it client-friendly, probably also consider negotiations even prior to engaging lawyers, just by the means of AI. Now, similarly, in criminal law, I think we all know that several governments of most jurisdictions have been using AI to catch repeated offenders, traffic violations, also predict what could be the next offense that the offender could be doing, and optimize on resource allocation and also increase fine recovery. So AI has been the largest tool for governments when it comes to regulation and enforcement. And prescriptive would essentially mean what sentence to offer, what has been the general trend in the jurisdiction where sentences are being offered. And it is one of the most prominent use of AI when it comes to law and enforcement. But quickly, understanding the risks and harms, I think we all did discuss that while there is so much jargon on how AI is going to take all of our jobs, but that in fact is slightly an overstatement, considering there are several biases which would take a lot of time for us to overcome. That's not just the bias and the misinformation, but also the fact that it would not be updated for the very long time. The algorithm is in fact put in by a human. However, there comes a point when there might be a black hole, which essentially means that AI tools like ChatGPT, which are generative AI, are actually prone to hallucinating. So after a point when the inputs have been put basis the case laws or basis the judicial pronouncements, it tends to hallucinate and make hypotheticals. And that is where it messes up with your legal research. It could mess up with you even drafting petitions or other things. So that's where there is, of course, a risk and harm analysis that one has to do when it uses AI, especially for e-discovery and case research. And lastly, I would also want to flag the aspect of lack of accessibility. So while we are all aware that there are AI apps and then there is AI to help us in e-discovery, we all are aware that not all of us sitting here could perhaps afford bringing on board an AI assistant, or probably it would not at least be economical to do so, considering after some point, while they make you dependent on them, they make it pricey. And once that happens, the accessibility gets lost. And once the accessibility gets lost, it also limits the input in the algorithm. And once the AI input is limited, the output is also eventually limited. So yeah, that are some of the risks and harms that were also touched upon by my co-panelists. I would not like to take more time, but just to quickly suggest that the way forward would be to get on board more regulation, to get benchmarks, to bring in more morality in AI, which will perhaps take a long time, and get in ethical rules, professional rules. Probably can start with some self-regulation board and eventually lead to a more moral, ethical AI, which will be better of an aid than what it is today. That's it. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thanks to you for working on such a comprehensive summary, and you seem to have answered most of the questions that we had for the panelists. So thanks for doing that. Mohit, would you like to share your perspective before I move to the other questions?
Yeah. I'll add to this. The thing is, I was working very closely with the prosecution agencies, and the prosecution agencies have very less conviction rates. So what we do, how the AI can be helpful for the government, for the prosecution agencies, like I'm working for the defense, but I was about to work closely In these type of cases like money laundering, they have the data comes from the various countries, from the bilingual languages. How can be the data analyzed by a human being who does not even understand the other language? There is a limitation, and supposedly, as you said, the input is limited. How can the data fed by an algorithm is also limited? If the data is limited, the outcome is also limited.
Exactly.
There is a lack of transparency. There is a lack of confidentiality also in that. It's a human thing. Confidential matters are human thing, not the machine learning. Artificial intelligence is what? It's just a mimicking software what human thought. Second stage is machine learning. Then the generative AI comes. Then you talk about the chat GPT also. I think recently chat GPT in legal research has quoted some fictitious citations.
Correct. Which is where
Yeah.
hallucination comes in.
I can add to this actually. So there's an analogy that I like to portray when we talk about ChatGPT. ChatGPT is prone to hallucination, but that is if you're not using something called retrieval augmented generation. So if you want to understand it, ChatGPT is like one of the world's smartest people, let's say. And when you ask ChatGPT a question, it's like you're putting someone through a closed book exam, and he has to, like, okay, he's very smart, but he has to try to remember, like, sorry, I got distracted. So it's like you're putting a very smart person through a closed book exam. Now put that very smart person through an open book exam and you reduce hallucination by a very large margin. So I would say ChatGPT probably has like a 70% chance of hallucinating, but when you give it the data and you limit it to that data and you tell it you can only answer retrieving by looking at this data, it literally becomes marginal. So I think it is not just about using LLMs and full stop. It is about, you know, the processes that you put in place and the safeguards that you put in place. And this is where data is really important. Sam Altman actually gave a talk in Jordan, and he was saying that this is why they say that the gold is in the data. You know, like, yes, it's a very good reasoning machine, but the data really is the most important bit when it comes to technologies like ChatGPT.
And since we are on the topic of accuracy and reliability of the output that comes from AI, would you want to address that?
Sorry, can you repeat it, please?
No, so I was saying, since we are discussing the topic of accuracy and reliability of the output that AI comes up with.
Look, this is a very critical point here, because at the end, you need to know what kind of algorithm you're feeding into your AI. You need to know on what basis you are giving it, if you want, the tools or the ways that they should. So, and definitely here we need technical people who are very much aware about those kind of things. The standards that you put for the AI, but again here, as my colleague said, there's always a human interference. So even though the AI is the one doing all of the analysis, but we're telling it how to do it. So as the plane cannot fly, you need someone. Even now you have autopilots and the drones, whatever. So the only thing there is that you're giving it the guidelines on how to do the data analysis, and then you're relying on that result, of course. But at the same time, as I mentioned, you need to tell it on what basis they should do that. So a very critical point, which is, in my opinion, it is the fuel of the engine, is the way that you're teaching it or you're telling it how to do that. So using the proper algorithm is a very key point here. And at the same time, if you take it from from an evidence to be accepted in front of a court of law, okay, and in case you're presenting your case in front of a court or in front of a panel, and you're relying on that AI analysis or data, it is also now, and this I think is going to be in the coming future, okay? Because how can I convince a judge while using that type of an evidence which has been studied by AI? How can I convince him that that is accurate, or that evidence is accurate, and I did not try to play around it or. So there is a lot of things that I'm sure we're going to be seeing in the coming future. Same thing now, for example, under UAE law, under procedural law in the UAE, and evidence law, when we use emails, okay, to say that, you know, like I've received certain confirmation which can be used as, of course, an evidence, okay, sometimes the judge appoints a technical expert to go into the server of that company to make sure it was issued from the server of that company or individual, or because again, we can all have a fake email, so, and then a fake evidence. So, and that's a very small point, if you want, if you compare it to the thousands and thousands of documents or data that you're talking about and all of that analysis. So again, I do think we're going to be seeing a lot of development in that area, a lot of, if I can say, maybe crazy or weird stuff that maybe for someone who's 50 years old is, I'm trying to adapt to that, you know, like technology and how much technology is getting involved in our daily life and in my life as a lawyer, but I'm sure we're going to be seeing some miracles soon.
I think there is addition to that also. There's just saying there is a lack of accessibility. How can you predict it, which algorithm is right and which is wrong? That's a big question.
Yeah, one depending on the systems that you are buying or you're engaging with, you know, the companies that offer that type of service. So the same thing when you're hiring, if you want some data collection or technical, or even the companies that offer you certain type of law accesses, like Costat, for example. And so it is very important and crucial to know who you're dealing with. The same when you have a certain sickness, God forbid, and you will go and choose the best doctor. So as a law firm, when you want to have those kind of tools, especially if you have huge cases, you don't want to go, sorry to say it, cheap on the price of the software or the tools or that you're planning to use, because that can, you know, like cause a huge issue while, you know, you're allowing them to analyze your data and so on. So the same when you use an IT company to reserve your information on their servers or cloud or whatsoever. So again, I'm sure we're gonna be seeing a lot of things. Just yesterday when I was posting on LinkedIn about the award that my firm took, there is a small tab under that description that says, let AI write it for you. And that's a very simple, minor, you know, thing that you can just press off a button, and believe me, it wrote it 100 times better than I could have ever written it. And that's a free, simple tool that pops up by itself on LinkedIn under the message you want to post, and it changes the whole issue, and it adds to it the hashtags and, you know, like all of the things that they want to tag. So just imagine what it's going to be doing for us next.
Yes, thanks. Also, I think here the issue of reliability here in UAE is still, so far, it's not a big problem. Why it's not a big problem? Because now, if you see that it's, evidence law 22 and also civil proceeding law and electronic transaction law, this all collectively legalize the using of electronic system or AI system here. So that allows the court to establish a courtroom, a virtual courtroom, and also if you see that is how is it working in UAE here. Here, for example, if you see that is, I can put two examples for you. First example for arbitration centers here in UAE, what they are using? They are using AI for document submissions, document analyze, and also for hearings, and also for online dispute resolution. How is the legal research? How is the arbitrator uses that? The arbitrator can, you know, when they analyze the documents and also make legal research for past cases or presences for that relative to the case in front of him. This, what can he do? Just looking for ad and leave and suggest for the AI system or AI machine to suggest for him the decision. And then, after that, if the decision is right, or the suggestion is right, or proposal is okay, he can sign. That's why the judge, the arbitrator, is really reliable and responsible for this decision. It's not the machine responsible for that. Also, for like here, rental dispute court here in Dubai, also using how they are using. They are using just because the rental disputes or conflicts is like just some documents, contract, breach contracts, and some documents. The judge they are using that is a virtual control room, and then that is they put the documents for analyze by the machine, the contracts, what is breached, who is breached contract, and then also the machine proposed the decision for him, and then he come back to revise all this. This is the process, and revise the proposal, and even the past cases revise for that. If this is reliable, or this is a decision, a proposal is correct for him, for his thinking, he can sign digitally. This is digital signature. When you see that digital signature for the judge on the decision, that is why also the judge is reliable for all things for the decision. It's not the machine. That is why here, and also so far as the law or this in UAE, using like this, operating like this, it's not the machine make a decision. But here, for the future, if the machine make a decision, we will looking for other things like, that is personal, also legal personalities. For that, how to legal personality of the machine. Here now, for example, for other things like for legal personality issues here, also for like here, autonomous car or autonomous vehicles. Here is working in Dubai, and there is a law in Dubai for how to use autonomous vehicles. And now we're discussing what is responsible, who responsible when the autonomous vehicles make accident or something. That's why also the law is settle this issue. But here, this is the only things that is the machine working by itself, and but if you have legal personality for that machine. But for the litigations, for arbitration, is still is not the judge or arbitrator is responsible, and also is not going to be replace the arbitrator or the judge. The judge is still is the managed control all the process of that so AI is working for that. This is what is happening still now in UAE. Thank you, sir.
Another challenge, I think, while using AI, we need to be really, really careful is that if you're actually giving it prompts to write articles or maybe like content for your website or content for your LinkedIn, you need to be very, very sure about the fact of plagiarism. So what I've noticed around is that I used to write articles on LinkedIn about some particular law, and I used to take help from AI or ChatGPT and Bard. And then after 5-6 articles, I realized that it's giving me very, very generic answers. And that's when this plagiarism idea struck me, that it might be, I might be guilty for plagiarism, because what AI is actually doing, since it's only a language model, it's actually taking out the data from the internet and giving it to you. So it might be, someone else's thoughts or someone else's words or someone else's lines that you might be using unintentionally. And so we have to be really careful with that. So pardon my language. So it's basically, since it's a language model, if you give it good prompts, it'll give you good results. If you give it trash, it'll give you trash.
When I was thinking about this topic when our colleague mentioned how he went on LinkedIn and he wanted to post something and there was an AI option to do that, while the AI option may have been better than what was originally intended to be written. I think a lot of times when we think of our family members or friends, a lot of time there is a very personalized approach. Like based on the way someone has drafted a sentence, I can make out which team member from my end has written it. Or whether my father is sending that message, my mother is sending it, or my partner, whoever is sending that message, I can make out. So that kind of unique personalized touch may or may not be completely there when using AI.
And actually, that's when the prompt engineering comes. That you have to be really giving it, talking it to talk, speak to it like a human being. And if you don't like the answers, tell it that GPT, I don't like this answer. Please improve yourself, and it will actually improve itself.
I
And
mean, courses, right, on prompt engineering.
Yeah,
Now people are actually calling themselves prompt engineers,
Engineers, yeah.
after doing that course, which would essentially just entail how to put in the input to get a certain output. So I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think she will be able to tell us as to how is AI developing technologically with respect to prompt engineering.
Yep, I was a prompt engineer. Yeah, so I do think that prompt engineering is very crucial when it comes to this, but something else that's very important is ensuring that it returns the citations for where it got the information. So I think one of you mentioned like that LinkedIn status. I'm assuming you were saying that what if someone else, like what if it's plagiarizing, you know, that kind of language. But, you know, it's not just about the AI just completely doing the work for you. If you have the citations, you yourself can go and check whether or not it is correct, which is where I really agree with the analogy of like the pilot. You know, the pilot is not closing his eyes as he's driving the plane. Like you want to see where you are going. So yeah.
And given that we have addressed the accuracy and reliability of the use of AI, I think the next question that we have is around the fairness, the transparency and ethical considerations that we as lawyers need to keep in mind while using AI on litigation and other dispute matters.
Yesterday we had this topic, if you like, which was about ethics and litigation management. So we spoke about that, but to answer your question, yes, definitely, as I mentioned, it's a very crucial issue here when we want to introduce the algorithms and how we're going to do it, because at the end, as lawyers, we're bound by our ethical boundaries and by our code of conduct, and that can, you know, like fire back against us with a malpractice claim. So definitely the boundaries of ethics that we apply on ourselves, as we were discussing it yesterday as lawyers, the same should be, and even more when you're talking about, you know, systems and technology and AIs, especially when we're talking about data analysis. Firstly, because your client will be the one suffering from any problem. And if it was our mistake, definitely we're going to be responsible for it. So ethical boundaries and ethical, you know, like standards here, it's something very important to be always, you know, including, and always we should be very careful in how we're protecting ourselves, and we should be extremely familiar with, especially, you know, with the softwares or the companies that we're working with, to know just exactly what we're talking about, and with, you know, what boundaries, what borders we have included there, to make sure, as I mentioned, not to hurt ourselves as lawyers and not to, you know, like hurt the interest of the client and how much is going to be affecting him. So this definitely goes without saying. I think we're making people getting bored here, so I'm not sure if we spent a lot of time talking about this, because our colleagues maybe. Yeah, so
I mean, if anyone has a question with respect to how to use AI in litigation, I'm happy to answer. If you want to know how to...
Do we have any question from the audience? Yes, we have one. So it's not the boring, it's an exciting.
Thank you. Thank you for this topic and discussions, very interesting. And I understand that like cases when the work is done by AI would be increasing. And I also understand that like using AI optimizes the work process of the law firm and minimizes the hours spent for the case. Therefore, how do you think the work done by the law firm using AI should be charged to the client?
One, it depends on your agreement, your engagement letter with the client. So if you're charging him on a billable hour rate, you can add that as your, when you spend time on doing legal research, reviewing documents, meeting with your team to just put the strategy for the case. So because that's part of your evidence collection and your data analysis and so on. So definitely that can be charged to the client. Now, the criteria there is you need to charge it to him because at the end you're using a system. Okay, you're not using like a paralegal or a junior associate or a senior associate. So definitely you should be considering it as if you're using a legal researcher, which like usually is the lowest rate when it comes to the rates charged to the client. So that's how we usually charge it. And of course, there we usually take the consideration of how much the amount that we have paid for that software and how much time, we are using it. So we usually charge it as if it's a legal researcher hourly rate.
Yes, we have one more question.
Thank you very much. Mine is a comment on the accuracy of information that is generated from AI. My thinking is that with common law countries where they depend a lot on judicial precedents, it means that decisions coming from superior courts have a binding effect on lower courts. So it therefore means that there should be a proper reporting mechanism which will ensure that all this data gets into AI. Otherwise, you may be conducting a research on a particular area. Unknown to you, maybe another court has just made a decision which has changed the position of the law on a particular matter. So for me, I think it's very important that we must have a robust and consistent and reliable reporting mechanism to ensure that whatever comes from our course get onto the AI, so that at least we'll have realistic and then timely authorities. Thank you.
I think, sorry. And I think that is, let us use that as what is, as I repeat, what AI doing for the court now, so far. AI doing, for example, for legal research. Even the court itself, Supreme Court or the first instance court, they use it, they are not relying for legal research for AI also, because AI is still moving very slow for legal research. For example, for ChatGPT. Moving forward, if you look at ChatGPT, they sometimes update 6 or 9 months ago. And now we have recent cases. And within 9 months, there is a new laws, update laws, amendment of laws. That's AI or ChatGPT cannot give you information about that. That is why the first instance court, when they receive make any legal research with AI, should be they are very UAE in Dubai. They are very careful, very careful about that information. They look for information like a guidance, or for like that is to look for this one, and they themselves will go back manually or traditionally for documents. If it's correct, they can go back and make the decision and submit to Supreme Court. Then Supreme Court down for the others. And this is what is happening. Now, it's still so far, what I'm saying to you, so far, for law and for procedural law, like now, if you ask, what is the, if you ask in ChatGPT of what is, tell us about virtual assets law in Dubai, they cannot give you information. Ask him about evidence law in Dubai, cannot give you information. That is why the court is still the court, is still court working that is as a normal. But AI enhancing them in the process. For example, let's say that online hearing or smart hearing for witness or documents. This mainly working for documents analysis. When the documents are asked, even the documents, they're sorting the documents. Which is relevant with the case, or not relevant with that case, because there is 10,000s of documents. And then it will help. Now using for saving time and reducing cost. But it's still now, and it's still working. AI, for me as a lawyer, AI for a long time, that within next time, will not replace or affect for, that the human, the judge or arbitrator. Because why? The case is different cases. And AI is a machine learning or computer. And the cases, if you ask or the lawyers know that, the cases is different cases and changing information, even the parties. And then that is AI will not introduce a new conceptions or cannot change its program. Like for if you see IBM, what is the program? This is a machine. You can sort out the platform for you. And then also, when they sort out platform for you, the platform is programmed. And then can help you for LNB or natural language processing. They can just take legal language from the documents and give it to the judge. That is why the same, now the processing is the same still now. And also will continue the same. But when one time, if they make a decision, they make a decision like simple cases, and also suggestion for like rental dispute cases, other cases. But for the big cases, it's still now, the machine is not thinking. The machine is simulating. That is why, and this is also for last things, for transparency, and also there is, that is still, that if you see that traditionally, all the court working publicly. But now, if you say that is publicly, that can say, you can respect the issue of privacy and confidentiality. That is why also all these issues now is behind on the court. That is why now the legal system here in UAE is still just using AI enhancing the court. Enhancing the court also for saving time and reducing cost. That's why. Thank you, sir.
And hello. And also I wanted to answer what you were saying. I think you guys said that legal research is quite backwards, or is that what you said in the beginning? Like legal research platforms. I obviously have to disagree with that, like as a legal research platform. I think using ChatGPT is not the best thing that you could do, because you did bring up a very important point, and that is just you don't want just the data to be returned. You wanted to understand that you're dealing with a high court judgment, for example. What is considered precedent? You're talking about very long documents, and you have to think of the workflow for the data. What I'm trying to say is, if you have a bot, you want it to know what is precedent, what is the most important precedent, does it understand the hierarchy of the courts? And one of you mentioned a very important point, and that is ChatGPT is not always updated. So you could talk about like a court decision that came out within the last 48 hours, and you want to prepare a pleading. So if you use ChatGPT and it does not return this important precedent, that is obviously something that is not acceptable, like in your field. So this is where I think legal research platforms have a lot to offer, actually.
That's a good marketing way for your software.
But no, seriously, it is a valid concern. We had to work with this for a year and thinking with like the workflow with regards to that.
ChatGPT normally updating? It's every 6 months or every year?
So I know ChatGPT 3.5 is within like the past 3 years. Like there is like a 3-year lag. With ChatGPT 4, you can search the web now. But the issue with searching the web is you don't know whether or not it will prioritize the information because, you know, a master of all is a master of none. You want it to be specialized, like specifically with the legal sector, and more than the legal sector, the jurisdiction that you're working with, you know, understanding the courts. So, yeah.
But what happens when the information is only fed from, say, 2014? What happens to the knowledge prior to that?
Yeah.
Because I have searched for cases prior to probably 2014 or 2013, and it comes up saying I only have information after so-and-so year.
After 2014. So again, not to make this a marketing ploy, but it's very relevant. This is, again, like I said in the beginning, the gold is all in the data. So you want a legal research platform that caters from before 2014. Because like you said, you know, you want the vast data. But I did not know that ChatGPT had a limit of 2014.
Yeah, in most cases I get that. Yeah.
And they always put a disclosure or like an announcement that I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for, you know, like you need to go to
Legal advice.
So because again, this is how again they protect themselves that they're not giving legal advices.
Yeah.
Okay, so please.
Yeah, just an input to this ChatGPT discussion. So, you know, one good thing about these large language models is like you can train them. Yep. So, for example, if something in law is happening, you just train the ChatGPT or the model that this is the new law and act according to it. Right, so that's the thing. Probably, you know, as Abhishek rightly said, that it's garbage in, garbage out. So you just need to train it and then, you know, give the important information. Then you'll get the relevant information. And I'm sure that, you know, it'll do good for us as well as the lawyers in future. Thank you.
Yeah, just to conclude, like my ChatGPT knows that I am a lawyer, I run a firm, and I love butter chicken. Yeah. Yeah. So I have told it that, you know, these are, I will only ask you to give me recipes and draft me letters.
To conclude the session, any final thoughts on what the future of AI looks like when we talk about the intersection of AI and law?
I would say that it's going to be interfering a lot in our lives, work, education, and anything you can think of. And that scares me. No, seriously.
Just Terminator now.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be back.
The future comes and hiding in the past.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Even I tried ChatGPT today morning to get some trending lines or exciting lines to include in my MC script. All right, great. Now it's